What is up, everybody? A great fight just went down here in Las Vegas. David Benavidez defeats David Morrell. He retains the interim WBC light heavyweight championship. He adds the regular WBA light heavyweight championship. It was a unanimous decision. 115, 111 twice, 116, 110 were the judges' scores. I had it 116, 110. But let's just get to this. What a fight. You hear people talk about the old school and everything. This was an old school fight. These guys were throwbacks. They went back to what boxing was back in the day. Whenever you think back in the day was when they were hard nosed, they were tough, they were pitched battles. These two guys fought 3 minutes of every round. Most of the way they fought very hard, very fervently for 3 minutes of all the rounds. There was a couple rounds where maybe the pace was a 7 or an 8 as opposed to a 9 or a 10 in those rounds. But my God, these two guys did it. David Benavidez he has a reputation as a slow starter. And I kind of thought it was going to be a close fight because I thought what would happen was you would see it at the midpoint, maybe Morell up 4-2, something like that. And then Benavidez coming back in the second half of the fight. That tends to be how he fights. He tends to start slow, kind of download information on his opponent, and boom, he went. But after the fight tonight, he said something I thought was very interesting. He said, Morell was easier to hit than I thought he was. So I thought I should just step on the gas and go. And boy, did he do that. And that was so impressive. And I have been a David Benavidez fan for a while in terms of his skill. I thought he was good. I've had him in my Sweet 16, my top 16 pound for pound fighters in the world for quite a long time now. And I'm going to have to move him up after this one because what a performance. I thought this was the best performance of his career. He's had some great wins defeating Caleb Plant and Dmitry Andrade and Gvodzik in his last fight. But tonight's win against a very good, very durable, very tough David Morrell. Wow, that was a statement victory. I anticipate that he is going to fight the winner of the February 22nd undisputed light heavyweight title fight between undisputed champion Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. And boy, I'll tell you what, no matter who he matches up with, he is going to give either one of those guys a hard time. I have both Beterbiev and Bivol in my top 6. I have Beterbiev 4 and Bivol 6 in my pound for pound list. So I had 4 light heavyweights in my top 16. And I'll tell you what, after watching this tonight, David Benavidez is in the race with the winner of that fight. That's how good I think he is. He just showed everything tonight. He showed a chin. Yes, he went down, but I don't think it was like a hard knockdown. It was kind of an off balance, kind of a weird situation. And Benavidez actually disputed the knockdown. But he landed all sorts of combinations and all sorts of different punches. And that's what I thought was good. Morell could never kind of pick up a rhythm that Benavidez was trying to do. Benavidez pressed the whole way. He was whipping jabs out there. He was pummeling them to the body. He had a couple really nice uppercuts in there. Sometimes he led, he just did everything you want to see a high-level professional do. I mean, it was really a wonderful fight. And I think this is why you make the fights when you have two good fighters. You don't milk it because you get these kind of fights. The one thing that I remember people saying about Mayweather and Pacquiao, and I still hear it, it's almost 10 years. I still hear it to this day, is the fact that people say, boy, I wish they had fought in their primes. Manny went on to fight, 5 more years, 6 more years after that, and did some good things. But people kind of lament the fact that both of them, when they finally fought, were a little bit past it, and we didn't get to see the two of them at their peak. What we saw tonight, though, was Benavidez at his best and David Morrell at his best. David Morrell was a very decorated amateur in Cuba. He was 130-5 as an amateur, and he came into this fight tonight 11-0 with 9 knockouts. Now, there's some people that might say, well, he didn't have the experience to deal with David Benavidez, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I say hands down he beats any other light heavyweight in the world other than Benavidez, Beterbiev, and Bivol. And Morell, is competitive with those guys, right? But Benavidez just was just on another level tonight. I think we saw two young guys, both in their 20s, that were hungry, that wanted to win this, and they poured their hearts out. And that was what makes boxing better. And wouldn't you want to see the fight again? I think one of the arguments that boxing promoters make about waiting is, oh, it'll be a bigger fight down the road. And the Mayweather Pacquiao fight kind of gives them that defense, right? Because they waited 5 or 6 years to make the fight, and then it just was this financial windfall. But I think that was really an exception, and there was a lot of circumstances that existed surrounding that fight that really don't apply to any other fight out there. And so, I think when you make these fights, there's no reason that they can't fight again, right? By the way, root beer. So the last time I drank a root beer on the air, somebody was accusing me of drinking beer and gave me a hard time. So I just want to say drinking root beer. Uh, anyways, but yeah, you make these fights, make them when they're supposed to be made. And I mean, I think when we saw tonight was both guys were ready for the moment. There was rumors going around Las Vegas all week that Morell had a terrible training camp, that he had gotten dropped in sparring, that he was in really bad shape, that he might lose in 5 or 6 rounds. And I've been around long enough now to know that those stories get planted. Boxing writers, believe them and they whisper them to everybody else, and it kind of makes its way around and it gets into print, and it has an impact. And I think a lot of times those things are just to influence the betting line, right? And just to try to get the betting line to move. But they're usually BS, and that's what they were in this case. David Morrell fought his heart out, and he took some hard shots. He had opportunities to drop out of there if he wanted to. And anybody that's going to tell me that this guy was getting pummeled in training and was getting dropped multiple times, and his heart wasn't in the fight, or whatever the rumor was supposed to be, get out of here with that garbage. I mean, Morell showed unbelievable heart tonight, unbelievable toughness. He ate a lot of punches from a very big puncher, a very accurate puncher. He just wasn't as good as David Benavidez. He needs to improve some areas in his game. I think, number one, Morell could have stood to use a jab, and a consistent jab, to try to keep the big man off. But to me, it looked like Benavidez was fighting downhill a lot of the way, right? You get those fights where, Benavidez, kind of after he gets his sea legs and he kind of has the feel for the ring, he starts trucking forward and making you back up. He pretty much did that from the first round on tonight. And he was so impressive in doing that. And I think Morell, if he looks at the tape and he goes back, I think that's going to be one thing that he realizes that he could have probably done differently, was, kind of fire that jab and try to slow the freight train from coming down. It's a lot easier for me to say it sitting here, nobody's punching me, and, that type of thing. And I get that, but I think that's the one thing that maybe he would look back on and say, boy, I wish I did this. There was a lot of bad blood between them. They had a lot of harsh talk. But man, did they put on a show. And then they had the respect afterwards, and they embraced, they hugged each other. And when Benavidez's interview in the ring with Brian Campbell was over, he even went back and said, hey, David Morrell is an unbelievable fighter, and, hats off to him. And he praised him. And I think that was good to see. That animosity that existed, I think, was animosity because Benavidez knew how big of a threat Morell was, and Morell knew how big of a threat Benavidez was. And they both are prideful guys, and they both wanted to win the fight. And I think that's where that animosity came from. So that leads us now to February 22nd and Beterbiev-Bivol, and they will fight. They fought in October. Beterbiev came on and he won a decision in that fight. I've heard from people in the training camp that he has looked good. And here we go with kind of rumors about what's going on in training camp. But I've heard he's looked good. He's had time. He was fighting last fight with an injured knee. He had surgery that had forced him to miss their scheduled June fight. So now he's healthy and he's been reportedly having a good camp. Bivol, I think, had some room to grow from what he did. So that's going to be an interesting fight. Benavidez will be there ringside. Turkey Al-Sheikh, His Excellency, said that he wanted the winner of tonight's fight to be in Riyadh for Beterbiev-Bivol. So we can expect to see the monster in Riyadh sitting there watching at ringside. And hopefully the winner will fight David Benavidez next. I'll tell you what, we are in for some good, fun, entertaining light heavyweight fights. Let me know what you guys think. Who you think is going to win Beterbiev-Bivol, how you scored the Benavidez-Morell fight, and how you think Benavidez will do against the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol. I'm very curious. Put that in the comments. Let me know, and I will go in there and I will respond to your comments. But boy, what a fun fight tonight. To repeat, David Benavidez retains the interim WBC light heavyweight title. He adds Morell's WBA regular light heavyweight championship. He wins a unanimous decision by scores of 115-111 twice and 116-110 at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Great fight. It's going to be a fight of the year contender, no doubt about it. And I should just throw a little bone out to Isak Pitbull Cruz and Fierro. What a fight that they put on. That was just a phenomenal fight. And then, I tweeted during the fight, I said, and you thought that Cruz and Fierro was good when we saw what Benavidez and Morell were doing. Just a really fun night of boxing. A lot of good performances tonight. But, man, they don't get much better than Benavidez and Morell. I will have full coverage on keviniole.com. So I appreciate you watching this video. I would also appreciate you going there in a little bit and reading my column on the fight. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will talk to you all soon. Be well, everybody. Thank you for watching, and thank you for reading. Have a great night.